I want to say something to you, my viewers, about the nature of escape in this world of Jiu-Jitsu. Your long-term goal as an athlete in this sport is to become a highly offensive player who can attack his opponent at will, to engage in exciting, risk-taking Jiu-Jitsu, where you actively go after your opponent and try to get positive victories through the use of submission holds and attack. The only path that gets you to that goal is through a strong defense. I'll explain why. Any form of offense in combat sports, including Jiu-Jitsu, involves a large amount of risk. Let's say, for example, I'm in the mounted position on top of my opponent. If I attempt an armbar from there and the move should fail, I end up in a position underneath my opponent in most circumstances. I took a risk and I ended up in a position underneath my opponent. If I don't have confidence in my ability to work effectively out of bad situations, I won't take risks. Let's say, for example, I have a very strong armbar from guard, but I have very weak guard retention, and it's fairly easy for my opponent to pass my guard and get into a punishing pin across my side, and I feel my escapes are also just as weak as my guard retention, so that if he does pin me, I won't be able to get out and get back into offense. How hard do you think I'm going to go for that armbar of mine? I won't. I'll just hold on to a closed guard and hope that my opponent doesn't pass. Your capacity to go out and boldly attack your opponent is directly correlated to your confidence in your defense. I'll say this again. If you don't have confidence in your defense, you won't have confidence in your offense. You might have the moves, you might be capable of performing them, but when the time comes to pull the trigger in a competitive situation, you won't pull the trigger because you're afraid, knowing that ultimately your defense is weak, and if the risk doesn't pan out the way you wanted, you won't be able to move. And so you'll hold back, you'll shy away from risk, and you'll never become the Jiu-Jitsu player you want to be. Remember, your long-term goal is to become a good, positive, offensive Jiu-Jitsu player who can attack at will. But if you never develop the confidence in your defense, you'll never pull the trigger on that offense you try to build. And so the only path to the offensive spirit in Jiu-Jitsu is through defensive skill. That's why every time I teach beginners, everything begins with defense. My long-term goal is to create great attacking athletes. And if you look at my advanced students, that's exactly what they are. But you better believe when they first began, everything was defensive training.